fun, you crazy kids. I would like to visit the Tombstone Museum. Fried me so hard, I had to stop listening to it. Is there only 31? I was expecting more at the Tombstone Museum. Smith, were you on Razor Squad? Now we have Choices Matter elements. I don't remember the history of cars. I feel like I haven't recorded in like days, which is like kind of correct, but it's like Friday. It's Monday today. Hello, friends and gamers. Today we're gonna do at least half of the anecdote for necrologists. Like at least half. We're starting it a day early because I always forget that there's like login type rewards you need to get. I think I can do it in 2 days. Like we do 1 hour. We'll do half of it tonight, half of it tomorrow. I think I can make that. I think that can work. We'll find out. But the Tombstone Museum, I have not done an anecdote in a while, but we're gonna give it a shot. Do I have it in me to do that much reading tonight? Probably not. Nor do I really know how I don't know a ton about Necrologist as a character, so that's also kind of why. Like, I love her design, but I don't know a ton about her as a character, so I'm kind of wanting to do this one particularly. I felt like this would be a good starting point to get back into anecdotes and doing them as they release, because I would like to know more about Necrologist. I think she's neat. I think we can do it in 2 days. Like, I know I could do it. I obviously just need like 2 hours to do it. What I'm most concerned about is the login reward type bit. So we're gonna enter. If you're curious about what my current progress looks like though, with the main story, I am fully into chapter 5. Very confused with chapter 5. I will say that. Chapter 5 is extremely confusing if you're somebody who knows nothing about math. There's a lot of math and I'm very confused by it. And not even like that they're doing math, but like math terms that like I should know, but I'm like getting so lost. I think it's I also think chapter 5 is neat. I think it's cool. I will say that. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but chapter 5 is really cool. Like how they kind of flip. It's like an alternate universe. It's also, I think, the first time we go into the future, technically. So, like, that's kind of cool. I say future, but it's, like, 2007. But, like, considering the game is, like, stuck in 1999, anything in the 2000s is, like, kind of crazy. And then I must share my really bad progress to get Robuska. I've been trying nonstop to get daughter to come home. I don't even want to show you the current state of my blood type team. It's really bad, because I've resorted to using Balloon Party as a healer, and she does not cut it. Daughter was not built for this. I really need Robuska, my other daughter, to come home. But let's just show off the pity. I think I'm at like 30 something. Oh, we've definitely done something. So 41 pity. That is what we're at. 41 pity. I really need pulls. It's getting to a point where I'm like, I'm about to break into my Crystal Drops fund for garments. I'm about to break into it. Get Robuska. I'm not even kidding. But that's where we're at. We're gonna do Necrologist Anecdote now. Hi friends. I am just dropping in this video because I forgot to do the thing. My allergies are kicking my butt right now. I really need to do this quick. Anyways, y'all already know what I'm about to say. Well, this particular video is not sponsored. I am a partnered creator with Blue Epoch Universe 1999 through the Backtracking Atelier program, and will be receiving compensation for this video. I now return you to your regularly scheduled gut punch, which we haven't really gotten into the full gut punch yet. It's much, if anything, we start to get into it later on in this video, but there's some of it here. Have fun, you crazy kids. Right down here, and we're gonna have a good time. Now, by the time this video goes out, this video will not go out before Necrologist's Anecdote is over. So the anecdote is over, but if you missed it, you can do it, I believe, if using film canisters to unlock it, you can do it in the next patch, so that's not a big deal. But we're gonna do it today, because God, I need polls. Enter. A new anecdote has begun. Why do I feel like the setup for Necrologist's Anecdote is like wild? Because the last anecdote that I did was Mercurius, actually. So this is like a very different format. Interesting. Okay, so we're starting with She Who Hears the Dead at 8 o'clock. Liechtenstein, I think? The Tombstone Museum entrance. Okay, so it's a place. The postman says, "Hey, Fleck family, package for you." A hurried young man shouts from in front of the building. He glances at the door plate. Fleck Tombstone Museum. Can I click on that? I think I can click on that. Yes, we get, okay. Before anyone can answer, he drops a heavy black sack at the doorstep and bolts. As a fleeing death itself. So the Tombstone Museum then, are we gonna read everything? We're definitely gonna read everything. That's what we do here. This is a museum for tombstones situated in a country with no allegiances. I'm gonna be so real with y'all. I would like to visit the Tombstone Museum. I think it would be very interesting. Maybe I'm a little bit of a nerd about this stuff, but tombstones are like a work of art in and of themselves, you know? Some people just have like a quote unquote normal tombstone. Sometimes like people will have like a poem or like something things that mean something to them, whether it be like an inside joke. I think a tombstone museum is like, the idea of it is actually really cool. I didn't know one existed and now I want to go see it. The Principality of Liechtenstein along a country road a few kilometers from Vaduz. I don't know if I'm saying these words correctly as well, but I'm not going to go look at pronunciations because we will be here all night. Scenic, quiet, sparsely populated. The Rhine wind sweeps across the lawn, across the old stone castle. Letters on the doorplate glint in the afternoon sun. Flock Tombstone Museum, Heirloom Trust, Obituaries, and Tombstone Communion. The unfinished wishes of the deceased are handled here, more than enough reason to give the place a wide berth. The locals call it the House of Spirits, a name with a mystical and chilling aura. But the heavy black sack then, the thing about the sack, this is the 13th package in the last 3 months. Okay, that's a lot of packages. This package is as heavy as all the others and just as strange. It's made even stranger by the faint sounds coming from within. Oh, there is a live creature in there. I'm gonna assume it's like a carbuncle or something. I hope that's all it is. At times they seem almost as if they were a voice. Well, carbuncles can make noises. Passers-by find themselves staring at the package with concern, but the girl who comes to collect it seems to hear nothing. This has the vibe of a book I started on audio and then further down the road had to stop on audio because the way they did the voice for one of the for like most of the male characters, but particularly like the main male character fried me so hard I had to stop listening to it. And I'm not going to explain anything more than that. Oh, we get to there's drag and drop mechanics. See, Mercuria's Anecdote was very much like a visual novel, straight to the point, usual standard reverse fare. This is like a point and click game. It's kind of fun. I didn't know reverse did anecdotes in different ways. This is really cool. Maybe this is a new thing because I was not expecting this. I'm gonna assume that like somewhere down the road we'll get visual novel sections, but I was surprised. So we can drag the package right there. That's fine. Necrologist says a new commission. The heavy, silent doors creak open as the mistress of the museum lifts the sack. From across the distant strait, the broken stone stirs within, shaking off the flecks and dust gathered from its journey. So it is some type of rock. I think Necrologist is mineral, so that makes enough sense. And I guess, because her name being Necrologist, I always just assumed she was like a necrologist. But if she does stuff with tombstones, it makes a lot of sense that she'd be a mineral character. And that might be, I feel like those go hand in hand, you know? A new tombstone, one ready to join the museum's ever-growing collection. Okay, so it's just they received a tombstone. You know, that makes a lot of sense. It's a tombstone museum that they'd be receiving tombstones. That makes sense. So now we go inside. Necrologists are known for their ability to let families hear the last words of their departed. Not necessarily. Necrology in general is kind of just like magic related to dead people. It's pretty common in fantasy, I would say. It's always frowned upon. Necrology is always frowned upon. Well, I guess it being the ology doesn't necessarily mean magic. That would be like necromancy. Yeah. So necrology would really just be like more of like the study of dead people, because that's the ology is a study. Yes, we're doing root words and word meanings in a reverse 1999 video. What did you expect? This is what you signed up for by playing reverse 1999. So yeah, I'm gonna assume that like, I don't know. I'm not going to assume anything. Used an arcane skill to awaken the tombstone. Yeah, so if she is mineral and she can communicate with the tombstones and that's how she lets families hear the last words of their departed through the tombstone, that makes a lot of sense. And that's actually a really cool way to go about doing necromancy that way, you know? Because at the end of the day, it is the technique they are doing necromancy. Kinda, because the thing with necromancy is it's like reanimating the dead, usually in some weird type of way, which is why in most media it's frowned upon. But not always. It's not always reanimating the dead. So there is that. So we can trigger the arcane skill. Oh, it breaks the tombstone. Interesting. The slumbering tombstone is awakened, and the voice that dwells within it can at last be heard. It says, "Friend, we have more important things to do. First, turn on the light. I don't like to be in the dark. It brings up terrible memories. Those nights were filled with roars, but now the silence is more deafening." So we can wipe the dust off the package. This is really hard to do. On PC. because it starts flying all over the place. The stone shard sent to the Tombstone Museum is but a small fragment of the monument that it came from. Okay, so this is just a visual. It's not the actual thing. All right. Yet the shard bears the name of its owner, Mueller. Necrologist asks, Mr. Mueller, are you well? And Mueller says, the tombstone trembles rhythmically. Perhaps it's a nod? Kind lady, it says. May I ask, where is this? Necrologist says this is the Fleck Tombstone Museum, sir, though many also know it as the House of Spirits. Okay, you know, that sounds about right. People come here bearing the fragments of restless souls, hoping that we might them find peace. Help find them peace, whatever. Words. The room is quiet, yet crowded. I would assume it's small, so that makes sense. It's attended by tombstones in every nook and corner, some polished white, some mossy and gray, others so old and worn that their markings have faded, erased by time. Mueller says, my apologies, the Tombstone Museum. What exactly is this place? Necrologist says you've traveled far to reach this place. This is Liechtenstein. And the tombstone falls into long silence. Bad news without question. That's not good. And for a tombstone that has already known death, it borne more than enough bad news for one lifetime. It's like I keep seeing this Tumblr post going around, and it's like a list of like the worst ways in which you can be found, and the original poster of the post forgot, it's like the top 5, and it's like, you can be found by this email, you know, like that sort of thing. And they left off being found dead on the list. And I keep seeing it pop up, and this is basically this. The worst bad news, being found dead. Mueller says, damn it, where on earth did those brats bury me? I've been banished to this forsaken place while they returned home in glory. Okay, so I'm gonna assume this is related to some sort of war, and that's why we're getting it during the World War. No, that was the World War I patch was last time. What happened? I guess it makes sense that this would be after the war. All right. They betrayed me, Mueller says. Betrayal, blatant betrayal. The tombstone shakes violently, its anger clear. Necrologist says, please calm yourself, Mr. Mueller. Too much trembling will worsen your cracks. That will make it harder for you to rest. The mistress of the museum knows well how to handle such things. In fact, she says, the regret you fear may not be beyond repair. Mueller asks, what, you plan to go rough them up for me, Ms. Stranger? Oh, Necrologist says, of course not, and coughs gently. Hatred leads away from peace. It cannot soothe the dead. You know, she makes a very good point here. I'm not going to elaborate on it, but you know what? She's right. Hatred can't soothe the dead. Let's go with that. She says we can find a better way. You can trust me. At the very least, trust the other 31 tombstones that rest patiently here. They were once like you, burdened with regrets that could never be resolved. Is there only 31? Like, that's still impressive, but I was expecting more at the Tombstone Museum. But, Necrologist says, they have found peace. Necrologist's softened voice calms the reactions within the sack. Mueller says, very well, you can pick me up now. Place me in the glass case you're holding. The tombstone doesn't forget to add, but only for now. So we can lift Mueller's tombstone. And beneath Mueller's tombstone, Necrologist spots another broken stone. Oh, there's 2 of them. Are they gonna start like bickering and fighting? Because that would be real funny. This tombstone drips with collected moisture. It is weathered, ruined, and steeped in sorrow. Necrologist says, is this another part of you? You've been terribly hurt, haven't you? Arcane skill time! A weaker, more timid voice finally speaks. It says, no, I'm not a part of that loud fellow. Beads of water drip from the stone like unceasing tears. Oh, it's crying! Necrologist says, sir, you are. And Smith, so we have a name now, introduces himself. And we are to be continued. And we can do the review up here. We continue watching the story here. I don't know what each part, because like it's doing something that honestly, truly, Hoyo games do a lot, where they don't really fully give you the rundown of how many steps there's gonna be in the story, and I appreciate when they give you the full amount of steps, because then me, looking at this from a planning of the video perspective, know when to cut the video, but I don't know when to cut the video. Because everything just kind of shows up as it appears, you know, it's like not all there to be basically like a main story stage layout based compared to a character story layout, a normal character story layout. The main story for Reverse 1999, each step as you finish one step shows up on the page afterwards, so you cannot really see how many steps of the story there is unless you go like Google it or something, because it's out there, but it's not in the game until you finish it. Whereas a character story, all 8 steps are there, just ready for you. Sure, you have to finish the first one before you can do the next one, but they're all laid out, and I prefer when they're all laid out just so I kind of know what I'm getting into. But we are indoors. Whatever age the storm may hurl her museum into, the commissions never stop coming. It also is only like 11 minutes later. It's like the same day. A commission letter arrives together with the 2 strange tombstones. So we have a commission letter here, and it reads, "It began with a stone collector. His restless tombstones whispered day and night. Unable to bear it, he wrote this heartfelt letter. Dear Miss Necrologist, word of your museum has spread through the world of Arcanum. They say you can hear the voices bound to Tombstone. I hope you can listen to their final words and grant them peace. If you require any help, please do not hesitate to say so." The letter shows many corrections, clearly written in a hurry. Evidently, its writer was exhausted after days of frightening visions. Makes sense. And also it kind of does confirm here that Necrologist, and this is probably something you can figure out if you look at her character info, but I don't know if I have Necrologist. I think I do. I just don't really use her anymore. But I think it's cool. I'm almost positive she's a mineral character. I do think it's quite cool that she talks to the dead through tombstones, and she's a mineral character because a tombstone is generally made out of rocks, stone, minerals. I think that's a really cool way to do like magic related to dead people, if that makes sense. It's very creative. I like it. But then we have the 2 strange tombstones. One a trembling monument bearing the name Mueller, the other a weeping stone called Smith. There's no clue where these stones were gathered from. In this age, death comes easily no matter where you go. Mueller and Smith. I want to say that these names sound familiar enough, but I don't know if it's from seeing people generally talk about Necrologist's Anecdote that these names sound familiar, or if these names are from 3.0, you know? Because I did Sentinel's character story. I have to upload it. I didn't upload it during the patch. I did Sentinel's character story, but I didn't have time for Charon's. So I'm not quite sure with that one. They could have been characters out of either the main story update, because I haven't done that yet either, or Charon's character story. One of the two. But Necrologist, entrusted with managing the belongings of the dead, does not deal in worldly gold or silver. She tends to other rarer thing. A lonely ghost that refuses rest, or a chatty storybook in an attic. It is those things that she gives new value. For now, the task is to understand what these 2 gentlemen of stone desire. Let's start with Mueller, just because we had that one first. Smith's tombstone is in a terrible state, and the spirit dwelling seems positively haggard. Yeah, let Smith rest a little bit, too. Necrologist says, given Mr. Smith's current state, I think we'd better return to your commission for now, Mr. Mueller. Your wish, your unfinished regret. What is it? The tombstone pauses. It says, I appreciate your earnestness, Miss Necrologist, but I doubt you can fulfill my regret. I had a zeal beyond words. Designs of impossible grandeur, to make my country's might supreme, no matter the sacrifice. These definitely are characters out of some part of 3.0, if even just tangentially. I'm almost positive at this point, it just feels right. But, Mueller says, I fell on the battlefield. I died in the war that would end all wars, having won neither honor nor glory for my nation. Dust and grit flake off as he speaks. The grinding sound drowns out Smith's lonely murmurs. Mueller says, Ms. Necrologist, what year is it now? And Necrologist says it's 1920. Okay, so a little bit before, like, the early story happenings. 1920? Smith asks, shivering at the sound of the words. Is it still there? The sea monster, the really big one. Oh, so are we talking about the Chapter 5 sea monster? Probably not, right? Because Smith, were you on Razor Squad? Necrologist says, Mr. Smith, is there something that bears on your mind? Could it be that your life's regret has something to do with this creature? Smith says, yes, it was huge and gray. And Mueller says, enough of your babbling, Englishmen. Mueller interrupts. I don't know. I'm almost positive there was a Smith in Charon's character story. I'm like, oh, was the guy's name Smith? I don't remember. Because I say I didn't do it. I didn't record Charon's character story. I speed ran through it and like looked at parts of it. I just figured I'd go through it later on. Because I know there's somebody out there compiling like all of the story elements of reverse. Guys, I don't know. Anyways, Mueller says 1920. Then is the Great War over? Yeah, because World War I, I believe, was called the Great War back when it was actually happening, because they didn't know there was going to be another World War. They just called it the Great War. It was the biggest war they'd had yet, sort of. So that's what I believe Great War is what World War I was called when it was happening. And then obviously it took on the name of World War I once we had the second one. And there was a 2. They called that one the 1. Mueller says, I must be returned to my home. I was meant to be laid there in honor. The weeping spirit is cowed by Mueller's outburst, going silent once more. Necrologist immediately surmises the best path forward. If she wishes to bring peace to this fallen soldier, she must go to Mueller's homeland. And a skilled mediator always knows when to steer the topic. As you wish, Mr. Mueller, she says. Oh, so now we have choices matter elements! Wow! It does say different choices may lead to different outcomes, which I'm curious if they actually do, because the common joke, the common little gag in live service games in general, but particularly in gacha games, is that your choices don't actually matter. They're all just the same thing in the end of the day. So I'm curious how much our choices matter. The ending may shift in ways both subtle and profound. We only have one option here though, so like, how much do the choices actually matter? Anyways, thanks to your decision, you've grown more determined. And we're to be continued, so nothing crazy there. Necrologist will head to the train station and take transport to Mueller's hometown. So we can select a destination to travel to. Different destinations consume different amounts of time. The current time is shown here. Time advances as you move. Please arrive at your destination right on time. So I believe this is the platform we need to reach. So if we were to go to the riverside, then the platform, that would take 3 hours, I'm assuming, because this is a +2 here. Because this is right at 10. I'm curious how this works then. So we also now have a stage listing here and basically what we need to do for Necrologist Anecdote. So I don't know if it works the same as previous ones. So basically what we're wanting to complete here, get the important rewards, the ones we can't like farm, you know, is complete stage 4, the whistle, and stage 7, the museum. Honestly, truly, I'm thinking we might just bare minimum finish this. I'm not really sure. I think it depends because I'm already at 26 minutes of my recording, but also I kind of want to know. Kind of do. I don't know. We'll see. So my thing is, if it says right at 10, if I go to the riverside, okay, see, now it's 10. Reset me. Okay. Because this says +2. So I guess I'd have to go to the forest. Yeah, okay, so we do have to go to the forest because there's, I guess, 1 hour on each side. I don't know. Like the timing, like I want to know how long this particular stretch takes, you know? But one of the tombstones, I'm not sure which one, actually, says, Miss Necrologist, can't we walk any faster? I'd like to get back to Berlin right this instant. So one of you are from Berlin. The cobblestones on, I know this word and I know how to pronounce it, but I also cannot I don't right now. I'm gonna say Leipzig Street, and I know that's not correct. I know for a fact that's not correct, but I don't want to go look it up because I don't remember. But they're all different colors. You could spend a whole afternoon just studying them. Much more interesting than what they've got here. It's just trees, trees, and more trees. At least you have trees. Okay, so that was Mueller, then this one is going to be Smith. So Smith says, wait, under that tree over there, is that a critter? Looks like it's asleep. Eyes half shut and head drooping like that. Reminds me of my younger days. Back then, I'd often find a few forgotten pieces of dry bread scattered around that big gray sea monster. Soon enough, a critter would creep over, curl up, and nibble at the crumb. So then we go to the platform. I guess the hour time is like how much time it takes to get to that specific destination. So the 2 hours above the riverside was how long from Liechtenstein it takes to get to the riverside. So an unknown man, and my box is covering his box, but I'm not moving my box. An unknown man says, look at those iron boxes. Cars, aren't they? Much faster than trams, I must say. And just look at the smoke puffing out the back. Yeah, they had early cars then, didn't they? Miss, do you think these things will also one day scurry around the streets? Like those little black ones? Little black ones. I don't know which one we're talking about. I don't remember the history of cars, which is funny because I've brought this up before. I grew up in Michigan, and so if you grow up in Michigan and you live close enough to the Ford Museum, you go there like at least like 2 or 3 times in school. They just take you there because it's a niche place, and they're like, all right, we'll take you to the Ford Museum. And so then they teach you about the history of cars, and I don't remember any of it. But Necrologist says even the best fortune tellers can't predict the future with precision. What do you mean she's a fortune teller now? And those little black ones you mentioned, surely you don't mean those pests. Okay, so select our destination. Where are we going? Berlin. He said Berlin, so... And I don't know how to pronounce this, so I'm not even going to try. I'm going to assume it's like a thank. Is that how you say thank you in German? I'm going to assume. Mueller says you have my thanks, Miss Necrologist. So I guess if you pick the wrong one, it doesn't show up. Like the Mueller gets angry. So we present our ticket to Berlin, and we're at Berlin much later. A cold stillness hangs over the land. We are on the streets of Berlin. Cars stream along the streets of Berlin. What did I say? A few pedestrians hurrying past. Mueller says, I've finally returned. I'm finally back. I once knew every inch of this place, every shop, every breath of air. Now all that keeps him company is a broken tombstone and endless solitude. Did you know, he says, Berlin shaped every one of us. Necrologist says, Mr. Mueller, this doesn't look anything like the origin of the hero you spoke of. Then she scans her surroundings. Mueller says, of course, heroes have never stayed here long. We always march on forward, until at last we return to receive the medals and praise we deserve. It is kind of funny. Also, this is just a very niche thought I just had. In this month alone, I have played 2 different games that have had us end up in Berlin, like historical Berlin. Weird that it happened twice. As Mueller finishes his speech, the long, silent stone in the box finally finds its voice. Smith says, I can smell it. He shudders with unease. Fresh, wet drops fall. Mr. Smith's condition has only worsened since arriving in Berlin. So I'm gonna assume Smith is from like the opposite side situation. So like he can, like Smith gets to Berlin and is like, oh my God, I'm having a panic attack, which is not a joke. That's a real thing. Necrologist says, Mr. Smith, how thoughtless of me. Perhaps it is best that we return. I think we need to just drop off Mueller. Like we maybe should have left Smith at home to recuperate a little bit, you know? Let them bed rot just a tiny bit and then come back after we dropped off Mueller. Speaking of Mueller, he says, no, Ms. Necrologist, you mustn't leave. This is the heart of Berlin, the very source of our nation's pride. Please, won't you take us for a walk around Berlin, just to take in the atmosphere of her streets? Perhaps it might even cure Mr. Crybaby's woes. The only thing I can think is that either, I don't even know if Smith has to be from that opposite side. It might just be that like being in Berlin brings back those bad memories. And so smelling the Berlin air is freaking Mr. Smith out. Mueller says, don't change course just for the sake of this half delirious wreck. I don't know if they're really going through it. I do think we should stay though, just to drop off Mueller. So we'll stay for now. Upon taking a step, Smith was struck by a strong sensation. Mueller felt it as well. Maybe this is the perfect opportunity to discover the wishes the dead once had. So Necrologist says, this is the street you're so proud of, Mr. Mueller. That's the question. And Mueller says, yes. This street boasts Germany's finest tailor shop. Nobles and dignitaries came from all over, and it was the pride of the entire city. Of course, including him when he was alive. I also am just now noticing this with the dialogue. Well, I think it was just a mistake actually, because they dropped off the close parentheses on this sentence, and this is actually how you would write this if you're doing it into the sentences in 2 different paragraphs. But I think it was I think that was actually a typo, but it's funny because the typo is actually the correct way to write this technically. It's a reverse 1999 video. You signed up for grammar. Anyways, Mueller says opera singers claimed they would wear their gowns to perform at the Moulin Rouge in Rome, in Milan, in Warsaw, every hall of victory. See, they did it here too. I don't know what their rules for leaving off the closed parentheses are, but grammatically it's correct. But it was the calling card of Berlin. Turn that corner and you'll see it, the most elegant of them all. And just as Mueller said, the finest tailor shop stands at the corner. But its doors are shut tight, and its golden sign lays beneath a delicate film of dust. It must have closed during the war, and so now it's stayed closed. We can knock at the door, and Necrologist says, hello, is anyone there? While she raps gently at the door, obviously. The hurried footsteps outside pass by. The locked door stays silent. At last, a neighbor takes notice. They say, don't bother knocking. They've been gone a long time. Mueller says, no, impossible. They never leave. He denies it desperately. Necrologist asks, do you know when they left? And the neighbor says, sometime after this war started. That's all I know. One day, soldiers came to the shop, drove out everyone inside except for the couple who owned it. Then they were dragged away. No idea what became of them. You gonna make me look up because I'm almost positive the Great War was in reference to World War I. Yeah, and the original name for World War I. I'm correct about that. That much I remember. History might have bored me in school and I fell asleep, but it's just because I had those classes early in the morning. I was still tired. Because this is starting to sound like a different war. Unless maybe... Oh... Hold on, Googling another thing. Because it's 1920. Yeah, it would have been... Yeah, this would have been like 10, 20 years right before. Yeah. Yeah, so we're like... When did World War I end, though? This was 2 years after the end of World War I. Okay. Alright, okay. So I guess... I don't know when the build-up to World War II started happening. This sounds like that. unfortunately. Anyways, are we getting a World War II arc? Because I think I even said this during the World War I arc. I was like, World War I, okay, we can do World War I, but when you get into the coverage of World War II, things start to get dicier, for sure. Anyways, Necrologist says, sir, do you know where they were taken? Oh, this is gonna do it. Mueller says it can't be. They were our pride, Berlin's pride. How could they have been arrested? Well, I guess that they probably arrested. I don't know. His frantic words reach only Necrologist's ears. The neighbor says, who knows? Answering Necrologist's question of where they were taken. The neighbor says maybe like the others, they were packed onto trains, trucks, or ships, sent off to some god-forsaken place. I mean, it's starting to sound like a different war, but I don't know enough about World War I. I don't know. I'm looking up a third question and I'm not telling you what the question is. 33. All right. That's when the build up to World War II started. Okay. So it's not that. All right. We have not reached World War II yet, guys. It's okay. The tailor's neighbor waves a hand and slams the door shut. Due to your decision, you've grown more confused. Okay. So that's not a choice thing, but what the choices we pick to build up tells us. Okay. So that's stage 3. We need to do up to a 7 actually to get the. Oh, well, this is just greed. You can always use more greed in reverse 1999. We need to reach the train station by 1826. So, oh god, how do we get there? If we do Berlin again though, can we get the second option? Oh, the whistle. Necrologist and her 2 tombstone companions head toward Mueller's second destination, a city far to the east. Okay, so this is now we're in the train car, I guess? I don't know what just happened. Smith says, are you all right? Smith tentatively nudges the other stone. Ever since leaving home, and even now on the truck to St. Petersburg, he speaks far less than before. Why are we going to St. Petersburg? Mueller says, what's this? Pitying me? Well, actually, I don't even need to dialogue tag that because the actual game text says Mueller snaps back at the gesture of comfort. This diversion is only temporary. When I finally figure out what is going on, I will return to rest in my homeland. Or did you think that all of that was enough to shake a soldier's iron will? And you, Mr. Smith, are you ready to face the outside world? Smith says, no, then falls silent. Mueller says real soldiers are already marching towards St. Petersburg. Ms. Necrologist, you said it's 1920. Most likely they've already reached it. Necrologist says, Mr. Mueller, perhaps St. Petersburg won't hold the answers you expect. I hope you're prepared. The Necrologist looks out the window. The storm of war has ravaged the land. Ruins and scars cover every town and village they pass. The suffering etched on faces is not hers alone to witness. Mueller says, for final victory, sacrifice is necessary. Which, I don't know if I agree with that. But also, I mean, I don't know enough about history to know if I agree with that. Anyways, moving on. In like in general, in like a closed scale, like the idea that in order to get what you want, you have to sacrifice. Don't agree with that particularly. The concept of like sacrificing sleep to pass an exam. No, I've been there. Don't do that. Sleep is important. On the wider scale though, I guess if we're conflating sacrifice with like a compromise, if we're conflating that, then yeah, I guess in order to have quote unquote victory, you would need compromise, but that's if you're considering a victory to be like the least amount of people offed as possible. But I don't think that's what Mueller thinks. Anyways, Mueller says, once we triumph, we'll return to the proper path, to the heart of a better Europe. What do you mean by that, Mueller? Because that is a subjective sentence, my stone friend. Proper and better are subjective words. What do those mean to you? He says we'll have warm rye bread on Red Square, fresh caviar, and of course, vodka. You know, I can get down for some rye bread. Necrologist says those things sound pleasant, but the price seems far too high. Yeah, no, especially during like wartime. Mueller says, no, Ms. Necrologist. When you reach St. Petersburg, you'll see. You'll change your mind. Is Mueller Russian? I thought Mueller was German. I know Smith is English because Mueller called Smith an Englishman, so I don't know what's happening. The sound of a passing train interrupts him. On the far tracks, a steam engine howls as it passes, drowning every voice, reverberating between stone and skull. Smith suddenly stirs with agitation, but it's clear the reason has nothing to do with Mueller's grand vision. Smith has PTSD. Smith says the monster's scent is getting stronger. I remember now. That sound. That was it. a massive gray beast. This sound always accompanied it. Oh, so guys, was Smith run over by a train, perchance? Oh, because that sucks. Necrologist says these whistles come from trains, factories, ships. And for your harbor, Mr. Smith. Oh, okay, so ships, boats, okay. So the great gray monster wasn't some arcane creature after all, but a ship, Mueller says. Or interrupts, my bad. That makes it simple. Let me guess, a harbor, a ship, ignorance of the outside world, confidential work perhaps. You must be an English sailor too cowardly to face the truth. Again, what do you mean by that, Mr. Mueller? Elaborate. Necrologist says, please stop, Mr. Mueller, so don't elaborate. Mueller says, London or St. Petersburg, our end is the same. Mr. Smith will see that soon enough. Do I gotta look up like who was on what side again? I feel like we did this last time. Perhaps putting these two in the same box was a mistake from the start. Don't make me get a little piece of paper to put between you two. A blaring horn halts their quarrel, followed by the screech of brakes. The driver says, St. Petersburg, we're here. To be continued. All right, we need to reach this train station here by 1826. So it's currently 1526. Oh, math. Awesome. Okay, so that was stage 4. So technically we probably should be done, but it's only been 47 minutes. So I think because we only have to go to stage 7, I think we'll probably try to do the whole thing in one video. And I'm going to regret that when I go to edit it later. Anyways, so we need to plan this out. So in order to get... It needs to be right at 1826. So it needs to be a whole hour. So we should go to the tailor shop on the street, the residential area, and then the train station. Because this will take 1 hour, 30 minutes. This will take to get here another 30. And that'll be 2 hours. Oh, wait. No, that's a lie. Because it's going to take time to get to the train station as well. So we probably should go to the cafe by the street, the residential area, and then the train station. I think there'll be a text pop up if we pick the right one. Because also there's like 2 different text sections in certain places. Okay, let's try the cafe by the street. Yes, something did pop up, so that this was correct. Mueller says, times really have changed. Just look at those boys scribbling away in the cafes. They all have shiny gold-plated pens. When I was their age, a single birch dip pen lasted me 10 years. Necrologist says, Mr. Mueller, that's a Mont Blanc fountain pen. Mont Blanc fountain pen, I think that's how you say that. The most popular writing implement on the market. Give me a second. My allergies are kicking my butt. I need a minute to debrief. Okay, I think we're back. Maybe not. Anyways, ultimately, it isn't the form that matters, but what message the ink from the nib carries. Smith says, ink, those blue-black blots. Ah, he just smudged the paper with it. But that color, it's just like the rain clouds I used to watch roll into the harbor. If that's a reference to 3.0, I swear to God. There is no story section here, so I'm assuming we're gonna go straight to the residential area then. It's 1656. So we might actually have to go back because there was no story section there. I might have got it wrong, but we'll still read the text anyways. A random passerby says, hey, look what I found. The latest jazz record. Come over tonight, will you? This record's sure to get your toes tapping. Another random passerby says, what a coincidence. I just got a record too. We can play them one after the other. See which is best. Have y'all ever experienced sitting down with friends and watching music videos? That's the whole hangout. Because this is the early version. Yeah, because if we spend 30 minutes to get to that train station, it's not going to be 1826 yet, so I do think we need to go back. Mueller says, humph, jazz? That rhythmless slop. Jazz is like mostly rhythm. What are you talking about? Is that what they're calling art now? Back in the army, we listened to rousing marches, stuff that really got your blood pumping and your feet moving. Literally went back in my day, but his day was like a couple years ago and jazz was still popular. Necrologist says, times have changed, Mr. Mueller. Today's music is about loosening up and letting your body move freely. Smith says, move freely? With a question mark. I was like that back then too. Every Saturday night, me and the old gang would put on a record, and as soon as the record started spinning, we'd be stomping our feet to the beat, and we wouldn't stop until the needle reached the last note. Yeah, okay, so we definitely did that incorrectly. I don't want it to reset all the way, though. It has to be right at 18. So what if it's 1726 now. If we just go back and forth a couple of times. And a passerby says, sir, look at this beauty. A singer sewing machine. Oh, like the singer sewing machines. Okay, no, okay, I read this wrong. Singer is the proper noun. It's a brand of sewing machine manufacturing. I know that. As efficient as 100 skilled hands. Another passerby says, let me tell you, before long, everything from ladies' handkerchiefs to gentlemen's bow ties will be made using this here machine. He's not wrong. Mueller says, but I'd say Berliners care more about the warmth in their fingertips than cold machines. You got that wrong, Mueller. Actually, sewing machines then led to giant factories of sewing machines. And now there's probably someone somewhere teaching a robot to sew, I would assume. Anyways, hand-sewn linings, tailored suits, handmade to measure, which people obviously still get these, but they're expensive. I think they were expensive back then too, but no product made by some clattering gears can match that. You know what? I think we actually should listen to Mueller on this one. He's right about this one thing, I'll let him say that. Worst person you know makes a good point. The fine tailor shops, the pride of Berlin, have already vanished. It seems our cherished craftsmanship is next to be replaced. The world is like a camera loaded with fresh film. The scenery is the same, but the colors have changed. This game is so good at writing stuff. So if we go residential area, that should get us to the train station. Yay! I did math! I think you're just probably supposed to get to every single one in one way or another. Anyways, the passerby paperboy probably says, extra, extra. Humans conquer the sky with mechanical wings. The future beckons to us from the clouds. Airplanes. Another passerby says, mechanical wings? No, those killing machines. Oh, you must be, yeah, because they used planes in the war. I've seen them die from the sky, fire blazing. Yeah, that makes sense, yeah. Necrologist says, watch your step, sir. Don't trip over that pile of luggage. I understand, but perhaps those iron birds don't only come to drop shadows. Perhaps this time they're here to bring people closer together. Which Necrologist is right about that one. I don't know where we need to go, though. Warsaw, oh no, I was like, Warsaw's highlighted. No, it's because of this. I'm gonna assume it's St. Petersburg. Yeah, Mueller says, thank you again, Ms. Necrologist. So we present our ticket like that, and we go to St. Petersburg. It's 8 o'clock in the morning the next day. Oh, it says night, but it should be the next day. St. Petersburg's noise rivals Berlin, but the winds here are far sharper. This is where the new world clashes with the old order, with no middle ground. Though the city bustles with activity, none of it is what Mueller had expected. Necrologist says, we've arrived, this is St. Petersburg. So we can walk around, sure. Following the flow of the crowd, Necrologist eventually finds herself near a factory. Though it seems there isn't any work going on, instead crowds of people stand together, engaged in a heated discussion. At the arrival of Necrologist, their faces change. Some look at her with fear and others anger. A passerby says, what are you doing here, young lady? I already don't like this guy. Necrologist says, I didn't mean to disturb you. She then holds up the tombstone box in her hand and offers a brief explanation. The passerby responds with, ah, I see, you are here for the dead. Unfortunately, this is no time to be visiting Petrograd. I don't know what that means. Our strike is about to begin. For your safety, I suggest you leave quickly or join us. I thought they were gonna strike the factory, but Necrologist says a strike, then the war is over. Okay. The passerby says not yet, but it's only a matter of time. If the Germans sign the agreement, we should have ended this damned war. We're all waiting, and that moment will be worth the finest bottle of vodka. So we are in Russia, I would assume, because they're saying the Germans, not like if we were in Germany still, it would be the government, you know? Oh. Okay, so this is now a reference to part of Sentinel's character story. The famous signing in the railway carriage seems to have been rewritten by Manus Vindicte. So if you did not do Sentinel's character story, I'm gonna spoil a little tiny part of it just because it's relevant here. But in Sentinel's character story, at the very end, you essentially walk in on the some sort of war government dude, high up there guy, having a meeting in like a secret part of the forest with a dude from Manus Vindicte. And yeah, but this is basically the reference. So in this timeline of Reverse 1999, the Manus did rewrite that agreement, ends the war, but I believe what actually ends up happening is it doesn't end the war, like Sentinel stops it, and so the war, or like they sign the thing, and the war actually just goes on for like another year, but it doesn't, it's just like 1 year. Which obviously any extra time on a war is gonna unfortunately kill more people, but still, you know, like it was just a year. But right now, none of that matters more than the march. A new age is coming. His eyes gleam with longing from the passerby. So thanks to your decision, you've grown more determined. From inside the box comes a dull, heavy thud again and again. The stone smashes itself against the glass until the pane shatters. Necrologist says, Mr. Mueller, you... Mueller says, did we lose? He cries in disbelief. How could we lose? How could we possibly lose? This was our war. My comrades, their sacrifice, their blood, did it mean nothing? Why doesn't it all lead to victory? Well, that is unfortunately the reality of war, is that someone's gonna lose, and generally everyone loses. Fun fact, it's really not all that worth it. Necrologist says, Mr. Mueller, the war is ending. That is a good thing. The tombstone slumps against the edge of the box, his cracks spreading wider, moss creeping deep inside. And I think this is actually a good point to make in the story, because there are people in relation to things like war that don't care about it ending, that don't care if they ever see that end. They just want to win, like they don't care who or what casualties are carried out in the way. They just want to win. And I feel like that's Mr. Mueller to a certain degree. Whereas Smith has seen some things. And so Smith just wants the war to be over. Almost more with Sentinel there, and Charon to a certain degree, because I do think Smith is related to Charon somehow, because that name, it just sounds, I know it's a very generic name, but it sounds like I'm familiar to the point of hearing it recently. But he calls out to Smith. His voice is like a spent shell, hollow and powerless. Mueller says, no, never. We lost, and you are the victor. Now you can mock me all you want, for yourself, for your country. And that's also something to note, is that I feel like both Mueller and Smith are traumatized by the war, obviously, but in very different ways, kind of like the two sides of the same trauma coin, if you will. Where for Mueller just wants to win it all. Like, Mueller does not care. So he's like, so to Smith, he says, you can mock me all you want, blah, blah, blah. You must feel great now. And it's like, Smith still is like, no, what the heck? People are dying, Mueller. I'm no victor. The other tombstone trembles in reply. Now Necrologist understands why this soldier with such unshakable will could never find rest. Because they never won. That was all they wanted, was to win. And now they didn't. They didn't. They don't care if they were one of the casualties of war. They just want their side to win. And that goes back to the line about sacrifice, where I'm like, hey, I don't think sacrifice is necessary, my guy. You shouldn't have to sacrifice yourself. Perhaps the tragedy was decided from the very start of the war. Yeah, I agree with that, actually. Necrologist says, this was never your war. You're no longer a soldier, Mr. Mueller. Your duty is already done. I hope that lets Mueller find some peace. All right, it's been an hour, and I said we would go for an hour, and we reached St. Petersburg, and to get this stage 7 materials, we'll do that tomorrow, but I'm curious, is there no like daily send out your guys stage, or do I need to finish the whole thing first? Because it's not in the reward section. Yeah, so I think there was no daily section on this. So I put this in to do it a little bit early just in case. I don't think I needed to. it's only like 8 o'clock, so I'm probably gonna try to do some more of it later. But I do need to take a break, because not because my throat hurts on this one, but because my allergies are really acting up, and it's getting hard to speak a little bit. So we're gonna be done for today. I'll get my worm stuff. Everything's great and fine. And I might actually play a little bit on my own, because I thought that this was going to be like visual novel stages, and I would need I would need my cells for this, but I didn't need cells, so I gotta go use up some cells. Can we do any amount of pulls? I have 110 clear drops. So, I mean, if I grab a little bit from my crystals, we're not going to do any pulls in this video, but we might later, especially because I'm probably going to do a little bit of, I'm going to do a little bit of chapter 5 in between here, because my cell's capped, unfortunately, which because this is going up in a timely manner, I immediately want to say the Picrasma Candy Machine is my new best friend. I love this thing. Picrasma Candy Machine is literally my new best friend. I love them. Oh, it's snowing in the suitcase. Wait, I've never seen the snow. Oh, it's so nice. Oh, I love that. Okay, we're gonna be done. All right, friends and gamers. So I am very sleepy, but we are needing to finish the anecdote for Necrologist. Okay, so this is the stages here. So we have been doing the stages. So we did 1 through 5 last time. I think it only goes to 7. So if I was smart, like I might just insert this into yesterday's video and make it one big video, because originally that's what I was gonna do, but my like allergy illnesses, plural, started acting up yesterday, so I had to step away. And I'm still kind of out of it, but not as bad as I was when I was recording, when I started feeling bad while recording yesterday, if that makes sense. So I think we might just be able to combine the content, because if we go up here to the rewards section, it goes to stage 7. So we only have 2 stages left, depending on the length of it. If like stage 6 and 7 end up being half an hour each, obviously we won't combine them. You'll know by the time this video goes up and how long the video is. If it just started high, this is going to be a trip. But if it's like an hour in and we have like 10 minutes left, then you know what happened. I'm probably just going to combine them, but I needed to split them in the recordings. It's a whole thing. We need to reach the port right at 16 o'clock. I still don't know how to read 24-hour time because I'm an American, unfortunately. So you heard nothing. To catch up, we got the tombstone pieces. One is Mueller. Mueller is the one who is like a jaded war vet. Jaded because he wasn't actually able to complete the war, but also there's like a whole self-sacrifice bit with him. Mueller is one side of post-war trauma, and Smith is the other side of that, and that Smith is truly traumatized by World War I. Mans is going through it in more ways than one. Mueller is also going through it, but he's hiding it better. And like we said last time, say it with me now, class, that is 2 of the possible outcomes of war trauma. Obviously, everyone copes with their traumas in their own ways, but 2 like distinct versions of that are Mueller and Smith. That's today's lesson. So it's 8:30, so we have like 8 hours. I'm gonna assume if we go to all of these, that'll count. We need to get to the port over here. So if we go to the palace, square, the factory, the library, the farm, because up here, I kind of just went to these places in a random order and it worked. So we're gonna do that again because it worked last time. So we'll start with the palace square, obviously. It is now 9:30. And if we go to the farm, what would be the best way to do this? Probably the factory. It would in total 2, 3, 4.5 hours. If we just start going back and forth, we'll just go to all of them in the order of the line they are here, and then we'll start circling back if we need to make up time for the port. We can always reset, but we're just gonna try the stupid method first, which is go down in a straight line. So we'll start with the factory, and one of our passersby says, "Come take a look. Craftsmanship passed down across generations." And yes, my box is covering it, but I'm not moving the box at this point. Metals made from silver spoons, hardy and dignified. Care for one? Better hurry though. The strike's about to start again with this strike. I believe this is actually something I wanted to look up in the last video, and we'll do it now because I'm feeling a little bit better and can actually do it. Is there a St. Petersburg in Germany? I think we came to the conclusion we're in Russia though. There's no St. Petersburg in Germany. Okay, so we are totally 100% in St. Petersburg, Russia. Okay. I won't be here come tomorrow from our passerby. And this one is Smith if you're just tuning in and I cut the videos. Says, metals made from silver spoons. What was once a show of tableside pride reduced to a mere trinket on a chest. See, those big shots are grinning at me from their metals. That will have no influence on the course of war. Smith is traumatized. We can go to the library then. And I'm gonna assume this is either a scholar or a librarian passerby, because we're in a library. Says, damned piece of scrap metal. It's like a paper-eating monster. My old dip pen never gave me this trouble. So he's complaining about the fancy new dip pens that everyone's using. Yeah, like Mueller was in the last bit. Mueller says, ha, another poor sod tripped up by a new toy. What did I tell you? Because when we went to the cafe in Berlin, everybody was using the fancy new dip pens and Mueller got mad about it. Necrologist says, Mr. Mueller, your grudge against new toys, in quotations, is even more stubborn than this machine that keeps breaking down. Times are changing. How we record words is changing too. There it is. What we need should be on the 4th shelf from the top. Oh yeah, because we went to a library. So then there's the farm here, and we have 2 hours left. So actually we should be able to reach the port with those 2 hours. Perfect timing. And the passerby here says, don't be fooled by how few are left now. Back then, the whole garden was full of roses. Oh, the scent that drifted across the river. But right now, filling our stomachs is what matters. Yeah, Mueller says in wartime, what use are roses really? Because Mueller's whole bit is like, we will sacrifice everything to win the war. And we shouldn't do that. Your health and safety matter more. Necrologist says, Mr. Mueller, for the people here, roses aren't just flowers. They're a source of hope. they keep them alive. See, I was thinking they were a source of income, but maybe, you know, maybe at this point, income is hope. If roses wither, I wouldn't be surprised if their hearts withered along with them. Okay, so we can go to the port then at 16 o'clock, and now it's 7, and we are at Scapa Flow. I think that's how that's supposed to be said, but I'm not sure. We have reached peace on the next morning. The journey from St. Petersburg to the English coast is no short voyage. So this is, they say English, so I'm assuming we're going to England now, which is, I believe, the origin of Smith's tombstone, but I'm not sure. Passengers sway with the swelling waves. Necrologist says, Mr. Smith, you seem down. Haven't you found your gray monster here? Oh yeah, because in the previous one, Smith thought he saw this big gray sea monster, but it was just a boat. Again, trauma, people. Countless ships patrol the waters, steel beasts embodying the pride of the Royal Navy, the hopes of the people, the work of thousands of hands. Smith says, I remember now, because Smith's been pretty quiet about their time in the war up until now. Whereas Mueller is like constantly kind of bragging about it, Smith is very reserved. Again, people cope in different ways. Smith says, the gray monster, it was the greatest ship of them all. I tightened its bolts, painted its hull, checked its instruments. Every day, every night. His broken stone fills with surging memory. His voice fevered like a shot of adrenaline. He says, I want to see it again. Necrologist asks, just see it? Is there nothing else you need? She says. Not a farewell ritual, a chance to meet old friends. I would have thought this meant much more to you. Smith laughs and says, that's for the great men to arrange. A ship that size won't stop for a single loose rivet. It has bigger missions. We never had a say. Yeah, I can't argue with that. It gestures faintly towards Mueller's silent stone, but the soldier is already at rest. By already at rest, does that mean Mueller was, by going to St. Petersburg, Mueller was kind of like freed from his stone prison, or is he just taking a nap? Smith says we're just ordinary men. Now we're just ordinary tombstone. No different from stones on the roadside. Necrologist says everyone is unique. Even as tombstones, I can tell you apart. The aura you carry, the uneven edges, the size of your cracks, they all bear your mark. Smith says, thank you, Miss Necrologist, but it doesn't matter anymore. If you can, place me in the lighthouse closest to the harbor. One day I'll see it again, setting out or returning. His tone brims with hope. The Dreadnought. I'm assuming that is the name of the ship. We can click on it, and it is described as a great vessel built in the royal shipyard. Majestic, colossal, the very symbol of domination at sea. Is this a real thing? Let's do a Google. The well, it's a band. The Dreadnought? It was a battleship in the early 20th century. Straight from Wikipedia, which is where I prefer to get my misinformation from. I'll believe it for now, though. So yeah, this is an actual thing. I figured it was because Reverse is pretty good about using actual historical references correctly. Most of the time, like 99% of the time, Reverse is pretty good about using historical references correctly. But Smith waits, forever waits, for the ship in his memory. In silence, he sinks into eternal peace. Mr. Smith, Necrologist says, I think I know what I must do. So we're at the library again? Or maybe it's a different one? But for the first time, Necrologist breaks a promise to the dead. Behind her, the bookseller eyes her with suspicion. The shopkeeper says, you've examined every newspaper that mentions the Dreadnought. Miss, what exactly are you looking for? You're not some enemy spy, are you? Necrologist says, no need, sir. I've already found it. So we can unfold the newspaper, and she reads, the Dreadnought was struck by torpedoes on the starboard side and tragically sank. So that's essentially how Smith came to an end, if you will. Seas too rough for rescue. He drowned. 35 officers and 512 sailors lost. Now a graveyard beneath the waves. German actions condemned, we vow revenge. In the crew list, she finds a Smith's name. She gently wraps his tombstone in the old newspaper, not placing him in any lighthouse as he had wished. So how does that change things? So I'm assuming, how does that change? Also, this is going to be part of the last video, which is great because all the like sections I use to explain things, I can cut them out. You probably never saw them. Unless I did a good job explaining things, then maybe I'll keep them in. We're supposed to go back to Liechtenstein. Liechtenstein? I think it's Liechtenstein. We're supposed to go back though. Necrologist says, stripped of their grand words, the steadfast soldier finally raised his hands in surrender. And I'm just realizing my box has been covering text this whole time. Too late now. It's almost the end of the video. The ordinary sailor never escaped the shadow of a sinking ship, even after memory failed him. This is in relation to Smith. In war, everyone becomes a number, a forever silent tombstone. I mean, she's not wrong. In front of the Fleck Tombstone Museum then, so we're back home, and the postman says, "New package, Fleck family." Necrologist thanks him. And the postman says, "Honestly, I don't even want to know what's inside these packages. If it looks like a rock and sounds like a rock at the Tombstone Museum, what do you think it is, sir?" I thought that was pretty self-explanatory after we found out the first time. Especially if you are the postman that's here every other day. You'd think you'd figure it out. But the postman says, "Didn't you announce you were closing down?" Interesting. Necrologist says, "Not permanently. I only needed time to think. These tombstones, these lingering souls, I once treated them as vessels for the regrets of the dead, as ghosts tainted with strangeness and impurity. But perhaps the truth is not so simple." The postman says, "You don't mean those tombstones, do you? What do you mean? You mean I've been carrying those things all this time?" "Yes, Mark, that is exactly what you've been carrying." Before the mistress can reply, the postman bolts, fleeing this uncanny place without another word. "Oh, the story takes a different turn due to your choice. How? What? I didn't make any choices. I've made a lot of choices so far, but I didn't make no choice there." Necrologist says, "Mueller and Smith stood opposed from beginning to end. I couldn't reconcile them, nor even grant either man his final wish." Necrologist, you could have for Smith, just saying. "They learned the truth, but sank into even greater regret, bound to eternal sleep." I think we got the bad ending. Should I really say that their spirits are gone? Were they ever truly there? As tombstones, they could no longer act. Perhaps there is something I can do for them, for those swept up in this war, pulled forward unwillingly by its momentum. She opens the heavy doors and gazes gently upon the tombstones within. She says, "What is the true meaning of this museum? To remember the regrets of the dead, or to hold hope for the living?" The small insights discovered along the way bring her closer to the answers she seeks. "Even so," she says, "I will always honor their final wishes, watching over and protecting each forgotten tombstone." The end! So that was Necrologist's anecdote. Different take on the anecdote. I was expecting something much more similar to We're Curious and like other anecdotes I've seen where there's like daily stages. So that was a different way to do it. I actually really liked it. And yeah, I'll just be one big video at this point. It's just gonna be all one big video. We got a unilog. We can do our Episcopal. Didn't get anything out of the war room, which is kind of bogus if you ask me. All right, let's do a Episcopal. We can do one in this video. I have a day at 7 hours. There's no way I get her to come home. I might have to spend money tomorrow. I can't keep running my Blood Tithe team with Balloon Party. I really can't. All right, summon one. Oh, if that was the one, it would have been so good. It was literally the twins. Should I use my crystal drops? Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's a day left. All right, I'm gonna go, probably should go edit this. Oh, it's snowing again. We have to end on the anecdote art though. The original ending for this video was recorded in the snow because I was like, oh my God, it's snow. Because I'd never seen the snow before, but I probably will scrap that ending. So, oopsies. I was very excited for the snow though. I think if I go review, yeah, there it is. So there's the more traditional art screen UI for an anecdote. I actually really liked the anecdote for Necrologist though. I would do another one like this, I would. That is officially going to be it for this video. If you like this video, make sure to give me a like down below as well as subscribe for more and hit the little notification bell to be notified when I upload new ones. As always, I hope everyone had or is having a super lovely day wherever you are in the world. I'm gonna go do my dailies in hopes that I can get some more Episcopals before it's too late. And I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys!